Welcome back to the Base Talk podcast. I am your host, Jacob Billingsley, owner and founder of Base Sports Performance in Hernando, Mississippi. In this episode, we are discussing all things pitching with Assistant Pitching Director Hudson Ross. Welcome back to the Base Talk podcast. As I mentioned today, we are here with Hudson Ross. He's our current Assistant Pitching Director. Today, we're talking all things pitching. Hud, welcome to the show, brother.
Nice to be here.
So I know you've kind of been heading off a lot of the stuff going on recently, and we've had a lot of stuff happen. Obviously, our elite pitching group is currently going on, just got kicked up. A lot of our pro guys have just gotten back. A lot of our college guys are either in the middle of their fall season or finishing up their fall season, and we're getting a lot of good feedback from them. I know you've been shooting video back and forth, working on TrackMan numbers with a lot of those guys. But let's start off with some highlights. So some pitcher highlights from the fall. We've had quite a few, but are there some that you wanted to specifically highlight today?
Yeah, getting our pro guys back, watching them go through their final bits of their season was really impressive and real fun to watch from a stat standpoint. You got Cade Smith with the Yankees, who low A posted the most strikeouts in all of low A before getting called up to high A. And then Fowler, our big thing in the past offseason was limiting walks and getting him in the zone. And his strikeout to walk ratio was through the roof this year, which was a good sign. So he should be getting moved up here soon. Strikeout numbers went way up, walks went way down. So that's always a big plus on top of velocity skyrocketed for him. Aiden Fuller just got drafted. He went to instruct for a few weeks and then actually made it all the way up to double A just to be there in case, and got a couple innings in low A and high A, which was really exciting to see. On the college side of things, you got Griffin Graves at Auburn, who's been filling it up all year. He said that Butch and all of them down there are real excited for what he's been doing and the strides that he's made. We been working on a slider, which has helped him elevate his game down there and made him a viable arm. Nate Kreider down at La Tech, been filling it up, getting him back in the zone. Dean McCullough down at Northeast, sitting 90-92. So for him to be 90-92 and else every time he goes.
That was a big jump from the summer, too.
Yeah. He from 86 to 88 in the start of lives to 99 throwing at Ole Miss against other junior colleges is a big stride. Caden Baker's top 5 in pitches per inning, which is impressive as a freshman at Baylor. So I think he might see a whole lot of innings this year. You've got our 2 guys down at Ole Miss, Stone McKay and Brady Stinnett, who are just tearing it up in the zone. Every time I get a text from them, it's less than 1 runs each time, which is pretty impressive as a freshman at an SEC school. You got Matthew Osteen down at Louisiana Lafayette, who's killing it. The best hitter down there at Lafayette turned and looked at the coach and said that might be the best breaking ball he's ever seen, which is a good kudos for him. And there are so many more, especially our guys coming off injuries that came to us over the summer. Connor McCaslin's getting ramped up here soon to face live batters. Chase Armstrong along with him. Chase is stringing along real smoothly, foaming at the mouth every time I talk to him to get back down here in the winter to throw. So those are always nice, and the list could go on and on and on, but we'll keep it short and sweet just for today.
Heck yeah. No, honestly, that's a solid list. And I know that we hit, majority are professional and collegiate athletes, but we've also had a couple high school athletes have some pretty big velo jumps recently. I know maybe in the last month and a half, we've had a couple of testimonies of these athletes that are talking about velo jumps.
Yeah, in the span of, I want to say a year, Quinn Showalter went from like 83, 85. He's now sitting 90-92. Unfortunately, he couldn't go to Jupiter because I really do think he probably would have popped to 4 or 5 as a junior in high school. He was really impressive. Max Richardson came to us from Jackson, Tennessee. In the span of 3 weeks, he went from topping 79, 80 to topping 84, 85. Bowen Vaughn, freshman down in Oxford, he came to us topping 79, 80. He's now putting in the work. He saw the benefits this past weekend at an EBC Scout Day. He was sitting 83, which he's never done, which was fun to see. Jose Leon came to us in April, topping at 73. He's now sitting 79, touching 80, 81 as a sophomore in high school. Is
Let's go.
impressive as all get outs. There's just a few ones.
those are the fun ones to highlight too, because those are the guys that really, really have had nothing to compare any of this training to. And then when they get in, I think they start to see, like you said, just in a matter of a few weeks, sometimes these athletes that might be strong enough or powerful enough, but aren't moving as efficient. And like you said, Max is probably one of those guys that was, you guys just cleaned up some movement efficiency and he jumped, 4 or 5 miles an hour just in, less than a month just because of timing and having a coach, obviously like you, to be able to work with him specifically for a couple of times a week. Those are awesome highlights. I just wanted to give us a little bit of a highlight before we jumped into what we want to talk about today. But like we talked about, we said elite pitching group, it's kind of getting hot. We're right at the first month here. Let's talk a little bit about the setup of the elite pitching group. I know we've talked about it before on here, but we've made a couple of adjustments. So pretty much how it works, or how it's worked in the past, I'll let you talk a little bit more. It's pretty much, there's been 3 phases. You want to try to break those 3 phases down, as well as kind of our goal for them and how we're trying to actually educate them on what they need to be doing moving forward into college ball or professional ball and beyond.
First month that they come to us, the first 2 weeks is from a throwing standpoint, they don't touch a baseball. Like we don't put a baseball in their hand if able. We got a couple guys that schools deem them and have them doing other stuff, but with us, we don't have them touching a baseball. We want to give the arm a chance to recover and relax because a lot of these kids play year-round baseball. They don't ever take time off. So giving them that first 2 weeks is, a big time deal for us. And from there in the weight room, it's breaking their bodies down because we got to break them down to build them back up. We got to get the movements right. We got to get them understanding what we want from a technical standpoint. And so from there, on the flip side, with not having to throw or anything, sticking water bags and medicine balls in their hand, because the biggest thing right now is teaching them how to move efficiently, how to move properly. That's one reason we love the water bags, is because the water's going to tell you exactly what you're doing. If you're too far forward, the water's going to show you, it's going to pull you forward, it's going to show you visually. You're going to see all this water on the front side of the tube or ball, and you're going to be like, oh crap, and vice versa. If you're too far back, it's all the water's going to be in the backside of it. So you got to move well enough and move efficiently enough to disperse the water properly. And from a medicine ball standpoint, that's the closest thing they're going to get to throwing in the first 2 weeks. So having them be, quote unquote, violent or just be a little bit more aggressive with it has been the key for them, to get them moving quick and allow them to feel some sense of I'm still getting my throwing in. From there, the backside of the first month, we start the build up phase of throwing, which is just slowly building up the volume with the intent at the same time. And the key is just the volume at first. You keep the intent low, build the volume up, get the arm back in somewhat of a shape to where you can go into the next phase, which for us we call phase 2, which is our strength phase in the weight room. So we just tell the guys, hey, let's get it lifting, let's move it right, and let's push a little bit of some iron. We got to get stronger this time of the year right before heading into the season. From a throwing standpoint, it's when we really start bumping up the intensity. Our pull downs is a good way to show them the intensity build up and make sure that they don't go from 0 to 100, because going 0 from 100 can cause injury. So it's an easy way for us to control their intensity. At the same time, it gives them some sort of smile on their face, getting to see numbers pop up and getting to compete against each other, pulling down. So then from there, we head into phase 3, which is all about moving quick in the weight room, trying to produce power and get ready for the start of the season. From a throwing standpoint, when we really start our bullpens, getting them on TrackMan and allowing them to understand like what they need to look for this season and how to keep their stuff sharp all season. From an arm care standpoint, from day one, we've had them in and we've discussed to them, these are the things that you've got to do before you throw, as you warm up, those certain small things that they don't get while at school and away from here. So it's our job from day one that we've been handling, is getting them to understand your warm-up's got to consist of these things. You got to get the blood flowing. You got to get the arm prepared. We got to take care of it every single day. We can't just walk in and not do it on a certain day just because we got to throw tomorrow or stuff like that. Like, we've got to take care of our arm before we throw, and especially after. After has been the biggest challenge that they don't understand, is they get done throwing and they're just like, oh, okay, is that it? And then we go in the weight room and they're just like, my shoulder and arm's burning now. We're just like, yeah, we got to take care of it after you throw. Because if we don't take care of it after you throw it, it won't recover properly. So from a setup phase, that's kind of how we're setting it up with the end of this month, start of November being the kind of build up volume phase. The backside of November, started December is your intensity build up phase. And then by end of December, January, turning them around to go back to school ball, they're primed and ready to go, tossing bullpens. And I think a lot of them are going to, see not just their velocity go up, but I think their command and understanding of how to pitch and how to go about preparing to pitch for the season is going to be the biggest thing that they see. And they're going to have I think a lot of them are going to have a lot more healthier seasons, where in the past they've just, some of the guys have been relevant injuries early. So
Awesome. So I'm gonna just try to recap that. I want to make sure that for the listeners, they kind of get a recap. And a phase one, it sounds like pretty much active recovery, right? We're working on their movement. We're allowing their arm to recover a little bit, but we're still taking advantage of that time off to be able to maybe rebuild some movement patterns on the mound, rebuild timing on the mound, things like that, but without getting too much stress or any stress on the arm, really. And then in the weight room during that phase one, we're really just doing we're rebuilding their movement and mobility from the season, from the long spring, the long summer, even the fall, as well as kind of rebuilding some of that tissue quality and tissue capacity with like the tempos in the weight room. And then phase two was in the throwing side was the buildup, right? We were pretty much taking the arm from zero, allowing them to ramp up slowly, teaching them the proper ramp up and how to take care of their arm and not just go 0 to 100, right? Kind of educating them on the process of, hey, it takes this long to be able to rebuild the arm in a proper standpoint. And then in the weight room of phase two it sounded like it was strength phase. We're kind of pushing a little bit more weight. We're preparing the body for war, for lack of a better term. And then phase three, which is obviously pretty much right before the season, was our intensity phase, getting the arm moving a lot quicker, maybe doing some shuffle pull downs a time or two a week, as well as kind of building the intensity on the mound once we get to that mound blend. And really, it sounded like the focus of that again was to prepare the arm to move at a high intent, right? We know that it's going to move at a high intent as soon as season starts, so we need to prepare for that. And then in the weight room on that third phase, it sounded like we were kind of focused on maintaining the power, maintaining the strength, but again, educating the athletes on proper arm care and proper training when they're playing at a high intent, and how to take care of their arm between those outings. That way, they can have a long and healthy season. Is that accurate? Does that all sound right?
yeah, no, that's exactly.
Awesome. Well, let's actually take that in. I know we hit a lot of that, but let's dive a little bit deeper on the proper build-up phase. So, again, we mentioned phase one, we're rebuilding movement. Phase two, we were kind of rebuilding the arm, rebuilding the volume and intent. And then phase three was the intensity. Break that down, maybe just, maybe a couple of minutes. Talk about why is the proper buildup important, especially for these high school athletes, and why should they be worried about sticking to that timeline? Because I know when I was in high school, this was not a thing, right? There wasn't like a proper rebuild, right? I doubt you went through it, but I don't want to speak for you. But I didn't have any sort of throwing program. It was just, hey, it's February, let's start throwing to get ready. It wasn't a, hey, you're going to be pitching for 4 to 6 plus months. We probably need to prepare your body and your arm for that. So talk a little bit about why the proper buildup is important.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. When I was in high school, we had a month before practices start. They called it pitchers catchers, and it was basically, hey, we're going to continue what we're doing in the weight room, but we're just going to start picking up a baseball and get ready to start throwing bullpens at the backside of this month. Y'all just do what you need to do to get ready. But it's important for them to kind of understand what they're about to go through, because a lot of them, again, they're not going to have a break until the fall time again. And getting them to understand that it's not just getting them ready for the spring season, but getting them ready to handle a summer load as well, where you're turning around on the weekend. You might throw Friday in one of these big Worldwood Bat tournaments, and now you got to turn around on Sunday because your team's got a shot to win the championship. And so it's making sure that their arms can handle these massive workloads for a long period of time. So from our standpoint, that's been the key here, is letting them know, like, hey, it's good to take some time off when we get started. And now we start to build up. We've got to do it this way for the sole fact, we can't again go in 0 to 100%. It has to take time and effort and everything. So with the first phase being this buildup of volume, it's basically just to get the arm working again. It's kind of like taking them through a shortened injury return to throw. And that's been our big thing. And one of the easiest ways for us to translate it to them is like, hey, you got to realize if we take X amount of weeks off, it's going to take X amount of weeks to build you back up. So by taking them through the volume build up first of just getting more throws on the arm, keeping the intensity low, it gets blood flow back in the arm. It allows them to really hone in release point and figure out that from a mechanical standpoint. By then, now you can start adding the intensity because the arm has the volume capacity in it already, but it still needs the intensity capacity. So the intensity capacity is basically getting them ready to throw high intent at least one day out of the week for the next 6 months of their lives. Because again, none of them are going to take time off. So you got to prepare the body to handle that kind of workload. So that's where the weight room comes in. That's where the arm care comes in, allowing them to understand like, hey, we've got to do these little things in order to make sure that we can last for this long spring and summer, which a lot of them have never been taught before. I mean, a lot of them have never been taken through a proper build-up phase or arm care phase in their high school careers. And so, I mean, they're understanding it now and then going into right before the season and right before they head back to school. Because a lot of coaches, like you said, are just going to be like, hey, pick up a ball, let's get going. And we've got a kid who went through that last year. He told us, he was like, yeah, 3 weeks before the season started and before we started practicing, we were told to start long tossing and start getting ready for bullpens. And the kid told us that he's been dealing with arm and bicep issues for a whole year because it started bugging him after the second week. And that was one of the challenges, was getting him to understand like, hey, trust us here. This is the proper way to do it. We're going to explain it all to you, explain it, as simple as we can, as you got to build volume, then the intensity, then you build the mechanical and mound blend work together to get ready for that one outing a week or two outings a week where you got to go compete your tail off for a chance for your team to win.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's a pretty good idea of how and why it's important to build up correctly. I know one thing that we spend a good amount of time on in our staff meetings, setting up proper programs for these athletes uh, and making adjustments for them. And one question that we get a lot from parents and sometimes coaches is, what happens when these athletes are training at school? What happens when they're doing a throwing program already, maybe with their baseball coach or their pitching coach at school, and or they're in the weight room a lot at school? What are some ways and how do you navigate that as a private, pitching coach that's going through a full off-season throwing program? How do you navigate that? I know we've got several of them in different situations, so maybe pick, two or three of them and just kind of discuss like how we're navigating that and why it's still important to do both.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we got a few kids at a private school up in Tennessee. We had a phone call with their coach. It was about an hour long, trying to explain to him everything we're going to do here. And he was, very understanding. And his point, was he's built together a throwing program and that he wants them to do their throwing program. So we look at it and he sent it to us. What we do is we take it and we break it down, and we agreed that those kids, if they don't throw the day of when they come down here, that they can do some light throwing or whatever, but it's got to stay the same as what they've handed us. And so we make the alterations, and when they come in to do all the elite pitching group work, we ask them, hey, what'd you do at school today? I know it's this, there's arm care tagged on it. What arm care did you do today? So that way we can hit the other muscles that maybe you're not targeting. Because we got a couple of them that, they're starting up with us and they're targeting certain muscles, but they're not able to activate the more important ones. And that's where we come in. That's where we've got to train them to, hey, you're activating your upper trap. I need your mid trap activated. I need this muscle activated. Like, we got to build these up so that way your arm can stay healthy through the process. And when they come down, like I said, if they throw that day, we stick a medicine ball in their hand and a water bag in their hand when we get to the throwing aspect of it. And We tell them like, hey, this is your throwing. This is what we agreed on. This is what you agreed on. This is going to keep you as healthy as possible for the season. And they're just like, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to, trust you guys. And we got a couple of them that do that. And then we got another kid or two that are down in Mississippi that they're throwing at their schools. They're still doing lives and high intent bullpens and whatnot. So they show up and we're just like, hey, did you throw a high intent bullpen today? Yep. We said, okay, we're going to limit how much you rotate today. And we're just going to stick you in the weight room and really hammer home some arm care that you probably didn't do at school. And we're going to go from there. And they agreed to it and they're fine with it. And, they come walking in the next day or 2 days later, whenever they're scheduled to come, and they're just like, hey, I feel great. Like my arm doesn't feel sore or anything after throwing. And we're just like, well, that's our goal, is to make sure that we don't feel sore, hurt, or anything like that. From a weight room standpoint, some of the guys are in a weight room, some aren't. And the guys that are, we ask them what they do. And if it's, like one kid came to us last week and said, we did nothing but squat variations. We front squatted, we single leg squatted, we rear foot elevated squatted, we lateral squatted, all of this. We look at it and we go, okay, so you've had a majority of, knee movement exercises. So we're going to hammer home all your hip, all of our hip movement exercises, and we're going to get your glutes and hamstrings and stuff like that fired up. Where basically all today you've had nothing but quad and maybe a little bit of glute. And if they do upper body, like we had a kid come in and he was like, yeah, we did nothing but bench variations and pull variations. And we're just like, all right, well, we're going to take it nice and easy on all of our upper body stuff, but we're going to hammer home the lower body. And he just says, yes, sir. And he gets after it. And that's kind of how we go around everything that they're doing at school. So that way we're not overtaxing them. We're not overstepping our boundaries, and we're still getting the peak performance out of them to keep them healthy for the season. Because if you overload them and you constantly give them the same thing as everybody else and just be like, hey, they're doing it, you can do it, even though they've been taxed earlier in the day, they're actually getting worse, not better. So you gotta have to find the middle ground, and that's our job, is to communicate with each other and make sure that we're giving them the right thing at the right time. Because if not, that's when injuries show up.
Yeah. No, I think that was well said. And again, just to recap that, really what it sounds like we're doing and what we are doing is, we're asking them, hey, what is it that you did today? What is it that you're going to do this week? And obviously by now we kind of have an idea of like how their schedules work, how they respond to certain things. But the main thing is we ask them, hey, what'd you do? And then we're giving them what they need, right? So again, you said maybe they did a knee dominant day at school. They did a lot of high intensity throwing. We know that they're not in the weight room tomorrow. Maybe they're doing like, a field day tomorrow. Well, we are going to do, hip dominant stuff, posterior chain stuff. That way we're not double dipping. We're not giving them too much. We're not breaking them down. We're giving them 2 to 3 really good quality sets, movement sets of what they didn't get to make sure that they continue to progress. And again, like you said, when we do that, we ask them, the next day or the day after when they come in again, hey, how did you feel? We're constantly asking that question. Hey, how did you feel? And we, as a coaching staff, are obviously making those adjustments. Okay, this guy's good. He's okay to do 2 sets, of hip dominant stuff when they do knee dominant stuff at school. He responded well. He didn't have any issues. Or, hey, I was really, really sore. I'm kind of beat down a little bit. And again, that's where we, would ask that question. We would find out that they're beat down a little bit. And instead of sticking them in the weight room and doing a lot of heavy strength stuff, maybe now we're doing some mobility type stuff. We're doing some arm care. We're doing some things that are going to actually help, move their progression forward, as opposed to just, pour more water in the strength bucket. So I think that's really the important part, and the takeaway that we want people to take is that, we ask them, and we probably over communicate, what they're doing. But again, as a private organization, that's our job, right? Our job is to help these athletes. It's not just to train them, right? We need to understand what they're doing, and then we need to understand what it is that they need. And obviously that's the direction that we then go to and pivot to. Well, cool. Let's move it forward. We're kind of coming up on time, but let's maybe take the next 3 to 5 minutes. Let's talk about the college winter coming up as well as the pro guys. I know The pro group is already back. A lot of them are already throwing, and then we're getting a lot of texts for our evaluations for the college group. A lot of those guys, a lot of those girls are going ahead and saving eval times, getting ready for the college winter. Maybe talk about the pro group first because they're already here, and then kind of discuss what the plan is for the college over the winter as well.
Yeah, our pros, a lot of them are, they get throwing programs from their respected organizations. And so we cater to those from a throwing standpoint and make sure that they're able to do it. And because, those programs and stuff like that from the organizations, they're there for a reason. So basically, following that from a weight room standpoint, right now, they're just doing all their active recovery type stuff because we got a couple guys that got banged up over the season from throwing or in the weight room from the previous year at their respected school or organization or whatever. So kind of taking care of their bodies, getting them back right before we really start hammering home their build up phase to get them to where they're ready for spring training. From a college standpoint, we got a bunch of guys coming back. They're going to be needing tune ups against batters because they've been injured or got injured during the fall. And so they need some tune ups before they go back to give them the confidence. And other guys are just going to need some bullpens and stuff to stay on the throwing schedule that their pitching coach is giving them. So just hammering home all that information that we get and allowing them to do it to the best of their ability is going to be the key. So it's going to be a fun winter. I think it's going to be a lot busier winter than last year, and I think you're going to see a lot more competition this year around because we do have a lot more hitters than last year. So the guys that need to throw against batters are going to be able to throw. And the same on the professional side when that time rolls around, we're going to have a lot more hitters and guys that are going to want to compete on the mound and in the box. So it's going to be a fun winter. Even though we only have the college guys for a short amount of time, it's going to be fun to watch them. And then when the pros get ready to head back for spring training, it's going to be exciting to watch them throw.
Well, obviously, a lot going on right now. The elite pitching group, we're getting those high school guys ready to rock and roll. The pro guys are back. We're getting them in their off season, getting them prepared for spring training. And then, obviously, as you just mentioned, the college group starting to save evaluations, starting to save times, getting ready, to come home for December, and some of them part of January as well. So, most of them will have anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks usually. And again, like you said, just kind of some tune up, maybe help rebuild some tissue capacity in the shoulder. Maybe we're actually getting them to some live at bats. Maybe we're helping them with a delivery, whatever that is. Like you said, it's going to be a fun one. I think we're going to have a lot of variation come with those guys. So, well, cool. Let's leave it there. Obviously, if you like this podcast, please share it. If you have any suggestions on other topics you'd like to hear from me or Hudson, feel free to shoot us an email. Until we talk to you in the next podcast, have a good day.